It's been an extremely tight schedule, and we're already running a few minutes late for a very full and very rich session. This is the second time in as many conferences that we've had a special study on the social progress within Islamic societies. We felt that it was very important to identify this as an area of special concern, not only because of the events that are occurring throughout the world in terms of political turmoil and economic problems, but because this is a theme that has run through history since at least the 7th century, since the time of the Prophet. The themes and issues and concerns that many people are struggling with are not very different from those that took place during the period of the Great Crusades and the settlement of lands throughout North Africa. The same issues keep coming up repeatedly over and over again. So we felt it was very important for a society committed to the study of quality of life to include this content in a very concentrated way in particular workshops. There will be 4 presentations. The first one will be my dear colleague Habib Tiliouine from Algeria, and he will introduce what his topic will be. The second one will be my new colleague from Korea via Iran, who will be presenting on conceptions of Islamic mental health, broadly speaking. And then I will talk about Islamic social progress along with Habib. And I've given a handout which will carry most of the presentation. I'm just going to summarize basically what's included in the handout because the time will get away from us very quickly. And then Sirgy is going to deal with the issue of terrorism around the world, particularly jihadist terrorism. So we're covering a very, very wide spectrum of topics in the session. So let me begin by introducing Professor Tiliouine.
Okay, it's a great pleasure to be here with you and with all the friends and colleagues of ISQOLS. Now, my presentation will be about life quality worldview. I think this word was added, was modified somehow by Richard, but still it fits very, very well the situation or somebody else, but still life quality worldview, divergence between legalist, Falsafa, and Sufi perspectives. Okay, and this is the map, the historic map of the expansion of Islam since the beginnings in the 7th century and until the 16th century, nearly 1500. And you see that the map or Islam expanded very quickly, and that was unprecedented in the whole human history. In a very short period, it gained all a big region, which is now, we find most of the Middle East, North Africa, and Sub-Saharan Africa, and the other places, East Asia, and different places that you know. Now, I'm not going to go into history in order to gain some time, but for all Muslims, all those belonging to different schools or different sections, if you want, of Islamic understanding, they all agree that the Quran is the basic source of the Islamic teachings and law and so on. So when the Quran talks about quality of life, I'm taking just 2 verses which lay down the foundations for understanding quality of life roughly. Whoever does right, whether male or female, and is a believer, him verily we shall quicken with good life, and we shall pay them recompense in proportion to the best of what they used to do. That's chapter 16, ayah 1997. And it warns, this is the same Quran, but he who turneth away from remembrance of me, he will be, or he will have a narrow life, and I shall bring him blind to the assembly on the day of resurrection. So you see, there are two types, if you want, of happiness already that you can distinguish. You've got the happiness on earth, and you've got this happiness leads to happiness of the hereafter. And they are linked if you are doing well and doing right and following the prescriptions of the teachings of the religion, so you will get a good life after that, and as well you will get a good life here too. So how to reconcile, the necessities of this life and the other life? I think it's not simple, it's not easy. If we think of it, what type of life, how should we, what should we do, and there are a lot of difficulties in combining all the issues that I'm going to expose later on. Okay, so in this presentation, roughly from reading a lot of history books and so on, and a lot of reviews, previous works by people who are interested in this field, at least I could distinguish between three basic orientations. There is a legalist view of quality of life or happiness. We've got a philosopher's perspective, or perspectives, in fact it's in plural, and we've got some Sufi perspectives. Now, the legalist view, what do I mean by legalist view? This is a school that has been developed by fuqaha, and what we call fiqh in Islam. It's the people who try, the scholarship that came with the Islamic law, with the Sharia, because you've got the legal axioms, and we've got later on the thinking on the objectives or the ends of each axiom, and that was needed mainly in the starting from the 9th century, when life became very complex for the Muslim society, with incorporating new comers, like new civilizations, like the Persian civilization, the people from Greece and from the ancient, from Europe and from North Africa, from different cultures, Byzance. So, and these people had their traditions of scholarship, they had their tradition of philosophy and so on. So there a lot of questions came about, and mainly as Islam met other cultures, there was new interests and new fields of scholarship and among these the fiqh and the diversity of schools that saw light during the period, mainly starting from the 9th century and until now, if you want. And but at some time, some period of history, it came down. Then it came again, and there are a lot of people now working to develop all this science of maqasid. If you have science of maqasid, which is the purposes of Islamic faith, and you've got a lot of people who's been, the Islamic law, the Islamic Sharia, and they've been working on the foundations of these of the Sharia, and the Sharia, the Islamic law, and finally, at least Al-Ghazali, since he died in 1111, so 1111, and this man was, I think, Mohsen will talk about his philosophy, so I'm not going to stay long on that. And this man laid the foundations for the science of maqasid, or the intentions of, and he said that all Islamic law, each single prescription, it had at least 5 intentions. 1, to save the religion. to save life, to save lineage or progeny, intellect, and property. Maybe I'll go back to that later on, but still when the Quran, for instance, said you should give up or stop or not to drink alcohol, this is meant to save the intellect. When it is forbidden for mothers, they must save their babies or their pregnancy, and this is to save lineage or progeny. So each law itself, it has an intention, and if we start from these intentions, they are still working until today. And you see in the end I have a quotation from the Malaysian Prime Minister, who stated that Malaysia can be an example for other Muslim nations on what it means to be progressive and developed nation based on 5 objectives of Sharia: to uphold the faith, life, uphold the faith, life, intellect, progeny, and property. So, and he said that our government policies have been always based on these 5 principles of Maqasid. So the Maqasid or the legalist view hasn't lost its fervor even today. Okay, now there is a second school, which is the Falsafa view. And Falsafa, it came with philosophy, the Greek tradition of philosophy. At some time, Muslims had very enlightened leaders, maybe better than today, and they used to give to every translated book the equivalent of it in gold. Just imagine, Richard, if we receive the weight of our book in gold, we will work day and night. So, this means that there was a great interest in scholarship at some period of the Islamic history. And among the books that were translated, of course, Indian books of mathematics and Persian books, and also philosophy books from Greece. And mainly the philosophy of Plato, but he was confused. Yeah, they were confused, translated with Plotine. So, but still, they could recognize the big orientations of Platonism and also Aristotle, and mainly this in ethics, in the ethics and logic, his books on logic. So this movement had conceived happiness as the work of reason. In order to be happy, you have to use your reason. You have to think about the world. And we've got already in the Quran many verses that that motivate people to go and think and explore the nature and to learn from their environment and surroundings and so on. And this Falsafa view came to reinforce this attitude and to give somehow the methodology how to do it. But again, in short, philosophers, many of them at some period of time, they said that philosophy is dangerous. And because there was a lot of discussion, like between Al-Ghazali and Averroes, Ibn Rushd in the Muslim Maghreb, and Averroes was defending the philosophy, meanwhile Al-Ghazali was defending a more legalist view of Islam, the fiqh schools. And he was against, and for many people they said Al-Ghazali killed philosophy. And in his book, his book is called the philosophers, something, anyway, the errors of philosophers. And so these schools clashed, but for many people, they took somehow in the middle position. They said, okay, you can go for philosophy, but not for everybody. This is specific to illuminated and highly intelligent people, and this type of happiness should be reserved to these very intelligent and highly intelligent people. I've got many examples. Ibn Bajjah, and this one was in the Muslim West in Andalusia. I was in Spain now. And this man was a genius, you know, Ibn Bajjah. But he was a businessman. He wrote a book. One of his main books, he didn't finish it because he was so involved in the wool business that the book was left in the middle. But still, it is very, very useful. Ibn Bajjah, and he lived until 1139. You have the date here. So Ibn Rushd, the same thing. He was maybe one of the people who. They say that he influenced many Western philosophers. So, and he was, you know, illuminating, and he was talking about many routes to reach happiness, and one of them is the use of independent use of reason. So, conclusion, the use of the intellect and reason is the most important means towards happiness for Falsafa scholars in general. Now, the third view that it is discernible, recognizable within this lots, you know, thousands of years of work. In fact, which I didn't read all, of course, but this Sufi movement is very, very important. They say it comes from the word Suf. And for some people, Suf, it is not only the equivalent of wearing inexpensive clothes, but it means also purity. It's white, and it can be cleaned very quickly. And here, this movement started very early. For Rabi al-Adawiyya, this is a female mystic, and who abandoned her life of pleasure and so on, and she devoted herself to God. We've got Al-Ghazali, as I said before, and this man, he was a teacher, and he started his life studying philosophy, but he was, like hit by a depression, and he abandoned his teaching career and went away for 10 years. And that he was thinking of, he had this meaning crisis, and in the end, he said that the best way to reach happiness is to follow the Sufists. Again, Ibn Arabi, and this man is very interesting. He's very interesting in terms of, he holds that real knowledge cannot come from imitating others, from looking only and reading maybe about other models, but in exercising life. You have to exercise Sufism in order to reach happiness. And it's not just an existential quest thinking, but it is real work, which means sometimes, yes, thank you, it means sometimes to abandon some ordinary life and to go into practicing many stages in order to reach the highest stage of Sufism, which is to reach the halul, or intermixture with the highest being, or to live the intimate union with God. And this is stages, and there are a lot of books and thousands of books and thousands of Sufi methods now, which you can find, at least not thousands, but I could find 300 of them, which are until now, and some in the US, for instance, the Nation of Islam, and many movements which are influenced by Sufism and could be recognized within Sufism, and still they are very much different from each other. Okay, now the implication of this. Now, we've got the legalist view, and this legalist view, now it ended up, a minority of these people who followed this ended up in becoming jihadists. Maybe Joe will talk about these type of people, because they think that quality of life or well-being, it is to impose the religion and to impose, in some cases, their view of life and quality of life and so on through jihad. This is very small, and this is the group that is making a lot of, how do we call it, a lot of noise all over the world, and sometimes the people in the West, they're identifying all Muslims with those people. These people are just, very a minority, and they're not, their view is very extremist. Now, there are Salafists, or Wahhabis, different things. I leave these implications to you to read. Maybe now for the Sufism, it continues to live, and you find different types of behaviors that could be referred to as Sufism, but still, in short, there is a need for a real intellectual renewal in the Islamic world, and which accepts all these views as being diverse views of quality of life, and they have, I think, to come together and discuss things and think very deeply about things, and that needs, of course, spreading higher education and discussing things, by intellectuals first, but also with regard to the whole society, with the aim for peaceful change. I leave these implications for you, and if there are any questions, I'm going to answer them. I'm sorry, maybe I did it very quickly and not well organized.
You'll have a chance. We're going to take questions at the end of the 4 presentations, because the 4 presentations are really integrated.
Okay.
Different dimensions of the same phenomenon. So we'll take them at the end, but be able to say more. Thank you very much.
Okay, I guess it's better for me. So you've got the handout. Handout has some slides that I'm not presenting today. Also, slide number 2 has some references that are not mentioned. Okay.
I'm going to turn off. But are you going to use this?
Yeah.
Oh, then I'm sorry.
All right, let's start on the concept of mental well-being in Islam. A terminology note, I'm using happiness as an equivalent to mental well-being. Okay, in this presentation, this is my approach. All right.
Winner.
Where's the pointer? Do we have? Okay. If there's no pointer, okay.
Right here. I can use it. Right here.
There's, all right. Okay, this is my understanding of well-being in Islam, my understanding of well-being in Islam. So well-being is to organize your life, your whole life, based on Islam. Okay, so what does it mean? Let's ask Al-Ghazali, who is a legalist, in Habib's term, a theologian or a Sufi, who says that, know that the key to happiness is to follow the Sunnah. What the Sunnah means, Prophet's words and acts. So, to follow the Sunnah and to imitate the messenger of God, Muhammad, in all his coming and going, his movements and his rest, in his way of eating, his attitude, his sleep, and his talk. So this is the key to happiness in Islam. All right, now maybe you have started thinking that this is very different from what we know about happiness in Western culture. Okay, let me highlight 5 major differences between this concept of happiness and the dominant Western understanding of happiness. Number 1, so in the West, we are dealing with an obsession with emotional happiness. Here, I'm talking about happy feelings. Okay, happy, positive feelings. So it sounds like Western people are obsessed with happiness. In Islam, we can talk about a hesitation or aversion towards happiness. All right. Now, according to the empirical data that I have access to, happiness is among the highest values in the Western world. People like to be happy, they pay to be happy, they try to be happy, and they pursue happiness in every aspect of their lives. And if you are not happy, if you're not smiling, if you don't have a positive attitude, something's wrong with you. Okay, go and see a doctor. Now, in Islam, happiness, I'm talking about emotional happiness, happy feelings, are not really central. Doesn't tell us something about the person. If the person is happy or not emotionally, that's not very important. So duty, your social responsibility is definitely more important. So when needed, you definitely should sacrifice your positive feelings for your social and religious theory. Happiness is not even, emotional happiness according to Islam, is not even possible in this world. In this world, material world, is not the world where you can find a complete version of emotional happiness. So it's better to wait and find it in the afterlife. Okay, two quotes from the Prophet of Islam. Were you to know what I know, you would laugh little and weep much. Avoid much laughter, for much laughter deadens the heart. Okay, so what do we get from these two quotes? Positive emotions are not central in the Islamic understanding of happiness. Okay, difference number two, self-enhancement versus self-transcendence. We can say that in Western culture, self is very important, and self-esteem is even more important. So happiness is a personal achievement. This is about you, okay, and yourself. So happiness is about a person. Individuality is emphasized in the developmental theories in the West. You should become individuated from society or other people, otherwise something is wrong with you. And Western psychotherapy also is based on promoting self-esteem. If you don't have a good sense of self and with firm borders with other people, you should see a therapist probably. But in Islam,